So we'll go back to that in a second. Solid food is detoxification regulated. You guys ready for this? Everybody in this room has a consistent diet. You eat about the same kinds and quantities of food every single day. Even if you're eating all over the place, somewhere in that mess, there's a consistent diet. For example, I used to have 3 avocados. I can't even think about it anymore. My consistent diet, the amount of fat I eat is like a half an avocado. When you eat more than your consistent diet, what happens? You're just like, oh, your energy levels are low. You're just like, you know, I don't have energy. When you eat at your consistent diet, your energy levels are pretty good. When you eat less than your consistent diet, you are just flying high. When you consistently, permanently eat less than your consistent diet, you detox, you become cleaner and more efficient, and it starts to shift where your consistent diet starts to become where you eat less. There's about a 20% margin for error for anybody with their diet. That hamburgers hit my 20% there. That's a little bit too much for me. The further you take it this way, the more that shrinks to where it's more dangerous to eat your fast food choices the longer you've been doing it. We'll get into that in a second, but why is solid food a detoxification regulator? Okay, so let's say you take a cocaine addict that does their drug 2 times a day, and they go down to 1 time a day. They go through withdrawals and they crave that hit, right? Now, we eat 3 times a day, 2 or 3 times a day, depending on who you are usually. When you think you're hungry, that's like the time you eat, you get your hit. Anyone in this room can fast for 10 days and be fine. We're not really hungry. But what happens is we start to get sick, we get tired, and we lose our energy because there's toxins going through the bloodstream. What we do 3 times a day is we stop the detoxification. That's why solid food is a detoxification regulator. Okay. So, back to this book. There's this guy in here named Luigi Cornaro. You have a question?
I don't just had a quick comment.
Okay.
I was thinking of using avocado for this.
Ooh, sounds yummy. There's this guy, he cites in here, his name's Luigi Cornaro. His story, I love it so much I put it in both of my books. Gabriel Cousins put it in his spiritual nutrition book. Tony Easton put it in his daylight diet. And I couldn't believe it. I didn't even know this existed until 2 weeks ago. This is him right here, Luigi Cornaro. This is from 1560. What happened was, at the age of 40, he had a weak constitution, and the doctor said, you know what, you're going to die. You can't do anything else. We have to give up on you. So what he did was, he didn't go on a rocky diet. He limited his food intake to 12 ounces of food every single day and 14 ounces of liquid every single day. And that's all he would eat every single day. And what happened was, he started to get better and better, and he outlived his doctors. He lived to be 102, actually. So the point of this is, after 4 decades of eating only 12 ounces of food and 14 ounces of liquid, one day his family was like, you know what, you're getting older now. Your body requires more food and you need to eat more. And he intuitively knew, like, yeah, right, I need less. But just to appease them, he did it. He ate 2 ounces more of food. He ended up in bed after 2 days with a deathly feverish. He almost died. He said by the grace of God, he survived. And so he went down to 8 ounces of food and 11 ounces of liquid, and he lived to be 102. At age 95, he was chanting so loud, he couldn't believe how his voice was just so perfect. His margin for error for 4 decades of eating 12 ounces of food is just 2 ounces of food. That's crazy. He wasn't on a rocky diet. Like, imagine your meal is just a couple scoops of milk, like with spoonfuls of milk. Or you might have like an egg yolk as a meal. Imagine, that's what we were supposed to eat back in the day. So, why am I even going into all this? There's a point here. Those fast food choices become more damaging than they used to eat the longer you've been doing this. And what happens is a lot of people, they yo-yo back and forth between a raw food diet and a cooked food diet. Now, if you do it for a month here, a week there, a couple weeks there, it's no big deal. But when you do it for a year, seriously, when you're not even fooling yourself, and you do it for a year, you become pretty clean after a year. And those foods become more damaging to you. What happens a lot of times is people's psychological emotional issues rise to the surface, so they go back to eating what they used to eat. And their body can only handle so much because these foods are so damaging, so then maybe after 4 weeks, or they get 4 months, they get bronchitis. And they're like, oh my God, I'm never doing this again, I'm going the raw food diet. So they come back here for 8 months. Every time you come here, those foods you become even more cleaner, and those foods become more damaging to you. So this is the yo-yo that you've got to watch out for. This is where people run into problems. For example, I know people that lost like 50 pounds, they lose all this weight, they're on the raw diet for a few years, and then psychological emotions rise to the surface, so they go back to eating what they used to eat. And not even eating as badly as they used to eat, they gain all their weight back, and even more so, they're not even eating as poorly. Why would this happen? It's because it became so clean and more efficient where their body evolved to requiring very small amounts of food. And so now their body didn't need it anymore, so they just put it in as excess weight. I knew this one guy who had cancer, healed it with an intermediate healthy whole food diet, met a woman, they got married, she made rich ethnic meals, she got upset that he wouldn't eat them, so he started eating them, guess what came back? Right. So they both agreed, okay, you eat what you eat, and, he healed again. So if you're inspired today to take your diet to the next level, this is one reason I don't tell anyone to go on a rocket diet. You've got to pick a diet that you know you're going to be able to stick with. Choosing a diet is like choosing a spouse. You're going to have to live with it for the rest of your life. Or there's going to be some serious consequences.
You can change your diet. I used to be macrobiotic, now I'm raw.
Yeah, exactly. So you don't want to go backwards. It's about possibly moving forward.
Right.
Yeah, fine. You don't want to go backwards and forward. Exactly. Okay. So remember, I also said the more sensitive you become, the more you live out, the more sensitive you become to air pollution and stuff like that, and other toxins. Another example from this book, they took a bird, put him in a glass cage without any air outlets whatsoever. And the bird kept breathing carbon dioxide, and it got more and more toxic, but the bird adapted and survived. But what they did was they took this bird out and put a fresh bird in there without any chance of adapting. The bird died. Imagine taking someone from 1,000 years ago and bringing them here today. Same thing might happen, right? So the reason why I bring this up, when you go on a raw food diet, you're trying to bring your diet back to before we're even the planet even started to have obstruction in the air. It's crazy. So living in a city is not necessarily conducive in the long run to a raw food diet, or it might affect your longevity. Some people like to take, like this guy, he took his diet so far, I thought he was living in the city. He actually said one of the most important things is clean air. But why would somebody want to take their diet further and further by eliminating more and more kinds and quantities of food? Keep continually doing this. One reason why I like to is because the more you leave out, the more in tune you become to that universal, cosmic, spiritual energy. You guys ready for this?
Yesterday.
Okay. The 100% raw food diet threw me into spirituality. I was never into this sort of thing. I was president of my fraternity in college. I'm talking like the #1 partying, drinking fraternity you can possibly imagine. It was a lot of fun. So I actually went 100% raw in New York City.